All right. Good evening. Welcome to the regular School Board of Education meeting. I'd like to call order and do a pledge of allegiance to the flag. To the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Please. Mr. Vincelli, call the roll, please.
Yes. All right, Mr. Covert,
Here.
Ms. Knox,
Here.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
He is excused.
excused, Mr. Vinatelli is here, Ms. Berkmeyer.
Here.
Mr. Powers,
He is excused.
excused, Mr. Richards.
Here.
We have a quorum, sir.
Beautiful. All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Knox. Support. Support by Mr. Covert. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All right, hearing none, call the roll.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes, Ms. Berkmeyer. Mr. Richards.
Yes.
Yes, motion passes.
All right, next item is going to be a budget presentation by Mr. Rathbun. Take two.
So we just finished talking about the 26-27 budget. Now we're going to focus on the 25-26 final budget. So again, you can see projected up there, and I think you have in front of you very similar format to what I went through in our budget hearing. First column is our 24-25 audited financials. Then we've got our 25-26 amended budget that was approved back in February. And finally, we have in that third column highlighted in yellow, our 25-26 proposed final budget. You can see there, we're looking at a little over $85 million for our revenues. That's a slight change of about $868,000 overall. The vast majority of that relates to our state sources. You can see there about 500 of it. And that's all due to categoricals that we received after we had amended the budget. So some of the categoricals we didn't receive until March and April and May. So that's the reason for that slight increase. Moving down to our expenses, you can see we're budgeting just under $85 million for the year. And again, very slight increases. So we see a little bit of a decrease in pupil transportation, slight decrease from what we initially budgeted in the support services as well as support services staff. Having a hard time getting my words out today. At our finance committee meeting, one of the things that was asked, you'll notice under the support services, there's a pretty substantial increase in expenses from 24-25. You can see we had about $31,308,000 in costs in 24-25. You can see that goes up quite a bit in our final budget, up to $36,883,000. So that's an increase of about $5.6 million. Today, Robin and I kind of went through and we looked at what are some of those increases related to. So a couple of the larger items that we found, like we've got about $1.5 million related to our electric buses. So that was a big piece of it. We had an increase for our bus drivers. They all went to $25 an hour. So that was about an increase of about $300,000 for the district. We had an increase in curriculum supplies and licenses of about $600,000. We had some increases for our instructional coaches. We had a $560,000 increase due to the 27L, which is again that employee compensation that we looked at. And then we had a $385,000 for the filter first. We had an increase of about $140,000 in our insurance. and we had an increase of about $200,000 in summer school. And of course, all of the negotiated wage and benefit increases for this year. So that's the majority. I know, Dominic, you had asked that question, and that was a good question. Those are some of the bigger items that account for that increase of over $5 million. So that brings us to, like I said, just under $85 million. We're actually projecting a very small surplus for this year of about $37,000. So that will add to our fund balance and increase our fund balance to about 18.62%. And the way we calculate that percent is we are taking the fund balance, I should say the unassigned fund balance, and dividing that by the amount of expenditures to come up with that expense or that percentage. So again, we're projecting a very slight profit this year, slight surplus. And we think that this budget will come in really close to where we're projecting. So at this point, I'd be happy to take any questions that the board may have regarding the final 25-26 budget.
I do have a question. You mentioned the buses, kind of off of Dominic's question. Did we receive a grant for that as well?
We did. Yeah.
All right.
So we received 3 grants, really. We received a grant through the state of Michigan for the electric bus. We received a grant through the EPA, and we also received a grant from DTE to assist us with the electric chargers and some of the infrastructure costs. So really, it was at no cost to the district. We were able to cover all of those costs with grant money.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Todd. All right, moving down the agenda, superintendent's update.
Okay, well, Tim is pulling up the presentation. We will in a second go over kind of what we did last year in June, go over the state of the bond, where we're at specifically on funding. But I also want to draw your attention. I gave you this legislative analysis. One of the interesting thing is nothing's been getting done in Lansing, and I'll focus on where they're at with the state of the budget on the legislative update. But I wanted to point out this is something, it's House Bill 5983 and 5984, and this is kind of stems from, as you know, we had former Governor Snyder come through the district, and we've been building kind of support across. There's a group, it's Future of Learning Council, that of about 83 districts across the state that have been working on this. And essentially it's to build upon what we've been doing. Expand career and technical education programs, expand work-based learning programs, internships, apprenticeships, job shadowing, extended learning opportunities, and competency-based education. As part of this, to continue building the support, is this legislation would kind of now charge the state and give the ability to create a transcript that is more than just grades and GPA and test scores. So now it's, if kids are getting certifications, can we kind of develop that as well in order to make it a better reflection of what students know? Because we know education is beyond just, did they take the test? Did they pass the test? Are they going? They could be going to military. They could be going to career training, apprenticeships, or anything like that. And so we want that to kind of be a wider reflection of what students have the ability to do. So as part of this, it really builds off of the model that we've been doing, where you have, they call them innovation coaches instead of instructional coaches, but you would have those, you would have learning plans, you have content specialists, because part of this is a precursor to, if getting this in to law, and then the hopefully next budget will not be nearly as contentious as this one, and then the state would have some funding that would follow with this. So basically it would be a 5-year to a 7-year, because they understand it takes time. It takes time to develop these connections. We're working on some other grants along with this, but surprisingly, because nothing's been moving, this went before the House and it passed unanimously. So there's good broad-based support. It went to the Senate today. I still think it's going to be hard pressed to get passed before they take their summer recess, because the oxygen is all being taken up by the state budget, which we'll talk at in depth later. But there's hope that it could be, and if it does, then we would aim to apply for this, and this would kind of help us with a lot of waivers and a lot of flexibility in order to do things. So, because a lot of that also reflects on what we're doing with the bond in developing middle school CTE programs and building that pipeline, because this is the reason it's really getting a lot of bipartisan support, is because they're worried about the population. They're worried about the having people stay in Michigan and take the jobs, that all the high skilled jobs that we need to fill, that we know um, as we age as a state, and to be able to get people prepared for that. So I just wanted to share that now, because I think it kind of helps with the bond as well. So for the state of the bond, we have Brad and Daryl who are going to come up, and just as I have in the past, they'll kind of walk you through where we're at with the funding and all of that. We do have some change orders. I'll also share some progress as we go along. Bless you.
The only question I had, Tim, if you can go back to that middle school slides, one more back, right there. So you said the yellow dot is our front entrance and you said this would be our new entrance? Okay, gotcha. All right.
Yeah, the plan on the bond was to, because the offices in many of our buildings are set back, and so it makes, we can't see people approaching, we can't see the parking lot. So now this is the wing, when you pull in the main drive, it's the wing that's right in front of it. So
Okay.
now that office you'll be able to see. So counseling, which was kind of buried into the building,
Yeah.
and the office, which was set back, are now going to pull out so you can see both parking lots in front of the school.
Okay.
And then so counseling and the main office will be kind of right there.
Yeah, I
So
was turning
again,
around for
yeah,
a minute, so.
yeah. And then the next phase that will happen next year is they'll start working on the library, which is right across. So now when you come in the main entrance, you can go right, you'll be able to go right into the library right from there instead of having to traverse through the entire school.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it on your end, Phil. All right. All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is hearing of the public. Those who wish to address the the board on agenda items must complete a brief request stating their name, address, and the subject of their comments. Remarks about specific employees should be directed to them personally and not included in the public forum. Administration will follow up with the concerns within 48 hours of the board meeting. I have one request for this evening from Christina Ross.
All right. My name's Christina Ross, and I've come before you tonight to continue to advocate for my autistic nonverbal daughter and her safety. My daughter, Raylan, she is nonverbal and has been a student in this district since 2022 in the special education program. Every concern or issue I've brought to this board has to do with safety issues within your district. May 27th, I got a call I never wanted to receive. I got a call that my daughter's head was smashed in a locker by another student, and she was in the office. I rushed to the school to find her bleeding from a cut behind her ear and a large lump on her head that she wouldn't let me touch. Now, I want you guys to entertain me for a second. Imagine for a moment that you're in my shoes and your child is nonverbal. An incident like this happens, and you can't ask your child what happened or how they're feeling. That ride home is silent, but you know your child is in pain. Staff asked how my child was doing, and I could only respond with, I wish I knew. Because all you can do is wait to see the visible cues or behaviors after the fact. I'm coming to ask this board, with all the work being done from the bond, the new upgrades to the buildings that are getting done, I ask that you guys add additional cameras with better and different vantage points for the special education wing and CI program. Reason being, I asked Amanda DePape, however you pronounce her last name, to see the tapes of the incident. I, as a special needs parent, need to see what happened. Those cameras are my daughter's voice. A luxury any parent on this board that has that my family doesn't is to have a conversation with your child. When I can't do that, I have to be able to see the harm so I know how to protect her in the future. Naldrit has a hallway that houses 3 cognitively impaired classes at the end closest to an exterior door, which because of the work being done at Naldrit, the camera was covered. The only visible, and I use that term generously, camera is at the front of the building from the office. Safety and security shouldn't be foregone due to construction. At best, I watched a horribly grainy zoomed-in video with no audio of the incident. I respectfully sat down with Amanda and Miss Lombas, who both tried to sympathize with my situation because they too have children. In our conversation, I had to respectfully disagree that they don't know how I feel. These talks are hard to have, but unless you live in a silent cage like my daughter does, you couldn't possibly understand the life that she lives and the life that I try to support her through her struggles. The lack of visibility and clarity from the security system is unacceptable. The timely manner of the call to notify me of the issue was acceptable. The documentation and meeting to view the tapes were quick and acceptable. The empathy and compassion from Amanda and Ms. Lombas were acceptable and appreciated. I'm not blaming either one of them, but what isn't acceptable to a parent of a student who's unable to share their testimony of events is the video system. We're supposed to rely on this security system for the safety of the most vulnerable students in your district. This district spends thousands of dollars on many wants within your district. I am asking that you guys put the needs before those wants and upgrade the additional cameras to protect our kids. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are recurring nature and are voted on a single item. Any board member may request an item be removed without a vote of the board, and it will be discussed and voted on individually. As recommended, the Board of Education approve the consent agenda, minutes, and personnel report. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Colbert. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All right, hearing none, call the roll, please.
Okay, Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes, Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay. Next item is the resolution school bond loan fund. The district participates in the school loan revolving fund every year and is required to perform a fiscal analysis to determine the tax revenues collected from the district taxpayers and is sufficient to pay the district's bonded debt obligations for the school year. For the 2026-2027 school year, it is anticipated that the district will have excess funds, approximately $1,015,000 that will be used to pay outstanding debt balance of roughly $11,984,593 in the school loan revolving fund. The resolution before the board authorizes the payment of the excess tax funds to the school loan revolving fund in satisfaction of a portion of the district's outstanding debt. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the school bond loan fund as presented. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Mr. Colbert, second by Mr. Vinatelli. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All right. Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Okay, Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes, Ms. Berkmeyer.
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right. Next item, moving on, final budget amendments for 2025-2026. The enclosed final budget represents proposed amendments for the 2025-2026 school year. As recommended, the Board of Education approve the final budget amendments for 2025-2026, and I will entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Knox,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Vinatelli. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All right. Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes, Ms. Berkmeyer.
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Covert.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, moving on. Number 3. Original budget approval for 2026-2027. The board will review the proposed revenue and expenditures for the fiscal year of 2026 and 2027. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the original budget for 2026-2027 as presented. And I would entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Ms. Knox, second supported by Mr. Vinatieri. Any comments or questions or concerns?
No concerns, but I'm looking forward to seeing how this budget changes as we get a little bit update from the legislative department of the state. I think it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Absolutely. All right, call the roll, please.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes, Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, moving on, we have some field trips. The first field trip part of your board packet. The field trip for the basketball team camp. Anchor Bay Athletic basketball coach will take 11 students and 4 chaperones to Hope College for team camp July 6th through the 8th. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the basketball camp at Hope College the 6th through the 8th of 2026.
I'll make the motion.
All right, motion by Mr. Vinatieri,
I'll support.
support by Ms. Knox. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Right, hearing none, call the roll, please.
Okay, Mr. Vinatelli is a yes, Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
now Ms. Berkmeyer.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, next field trip, cross-country team camp. Anchor Bay Athletics cross-country team, team camping. Anchor Bay Athletic Cross Country would like to attend a team camp in Gaylord, Michigan, taking 20 students with 3 chaperones for team camp July 27th through July 30th. Would anyone like to make a motion to that effect? I'm sorry, the recommended action of the Board of Education approve the cross-country team camp. Would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Vinatieri,
Well support.
support by Mr. Covert. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes, Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Richards.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Once again, another field trip. Middle School South Cedar Point trip. Middle School South Cedar Point trip for next year, May 20th, 2027. We'll have 16 chaperones with students. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the Cedar Point trip, May 27th for Middle School South. Would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll support.
Motion by Mr. Vinatieri, support by Mr. Covert. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
Just one quick question. I see here there's 16 chaperones. I don't know, are the number of students listed on this form as well? I can't-
No, this is the annual trip that's at the end of the year, and students they earn it by getting so many points and all that. So they won't know until the end of the year. But basically, this is the approximate chaperones that have gone in the past, and it's been able to cover it and stay within everything. So we'll make sure that we keep it within the right. We just don't know the number of students because they earn it throughout the year.
Gotcha. Okay.
All
I
right.
want to say that this past year, the notice that went out to parents said like 350-ish plus or minus kids went. So
And yeah, then we'll add parents and so on.
Gotcha.
All right. Call a roll, please.
All right, Mr. Venetez, yes. Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Richards.
Yes.
Your motion passes.
All right. Surprise, surprise. Another field trip, Middle School South, Washington DC trip. Middle School South's eighth grade Washington DC trip for next year will be April 29th through May 1st, 2027, with 3 teachers and 25 to 30 parent chaperones. This is an annual trip to Washington where students see and experience elements of government and U.S. history firsthand. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the Middle School South eighth grade annual Washington DC trip April 25th through April 25th through May 1st, 2027. Would anyone like to entertain that motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll support.
Motion by Mr. Covert, supported by Ms. Knox. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
And this is similar where again, it's for next year. They don't know the number of kids, but generally they'll know that, then they start their fundraising and again, they'll have plenty of chaperones.
Okay.
All set, all right, call the roll, please.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Venetez, yes. Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
All right, next item is going to be policy second reading in your board packet. We had some policy reading updates. The first one was educational records. Second was extracurricular activities. We had one for behavior, instructional, purchasing, goal, advertising, website, and digital content. It is recommended the Board of Education adopt the Miller-Johnson policy updates. I would like to entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Vinatieri,
I'll support.
support by Ms. Knox. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
I do have one quick question. So with regards to, let's see, your section, sorry, policy in the 2000 series, policy 2003, with it goes over to student surveys, basically describes how any sort of surveys are mandated or not will be distributed to all students. And then the details would be made available to parents in compliance with Family Education and Privacy Act, FERPA. I just wonder what kind of surveys have we taken, or what do we intend to take going forward, or what would be mandated to take?
There's not any that are mandated specifically, but it's really any survey. So we do our annual pizza, like which pizza do they like better when we do for lunches. So because we're asking the question of students, that's one. We also will do like school improvement surveys and things like that. And so what we do is we actually have a separate location on our webpage that we post those surveys, and then we send notice as well that they will be taking those surveys. And this is just a policy catching up with state law that changed in last year's budget when they passed it in October. And then now this just kind of puts it into our policies as well.
Okay.
Can I just ask, because I'm not on policy committee, but it's fair to say that most of these are fairly boilerplate or just updating components of the MCA?
Yeah, almost all of these are just to comply with changes in the state law.
Thank you.
And just for a question, when the policies change, do we communicate that to, the parents, or is that just included in the handbook?
So yes, it'll go onto our website. It'll go into the handbook. And then the first thing we do is in the first communication, it has all of the mandated kind of policies that we have, and basically alludes to that, because the same thing with the other notifications that we have to give. In fact, our attorneys send us, this is everything to include, and it's like 2 or 3 pages of the back to school newsletter that kind of goes over, here's where you can get things, and go through all of that.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anything else? No? Okay, then call the roll, please.
Okay, Mr. Venetez, yes. Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Moving down the list, line item 6, administrative contracts. The following administrators are being presented for contract extensions as the Anchor Bay School District Administrator through June 30th of 2028. As recommended, the Board of Education approve the administrator contracts through June 30th of 2028 as presented. I'd like to entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Vinatieri. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
My understanding would be that anybody that was listed in the packet is, receiving a effective evaluation.
Yes.
Can you remind me too, Mr. Jankowski, is to make changes to this contract, what is the time frame? We're supposed to put a notice out to them a year prior to
To make
changes?
to the actual administrative contracts, it's through the bargaining, so it would be 2 years.
2 years, all right. All right. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Okay, Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatieri is a yes, Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
No.
Mr. Richards.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
All right, moving on. Next item is going to be the retirement resolution. The resolution before the board of this evening is to address the result of a recent court settlement by the Michigan Public Employees Office of Retirement Services, also known as ORS, related to the Batista case. That case dealt with how ORS was calculating final average compensation for employees that had effect on employee retirement payment amounts. The underlying issue is that the underlying issue in the case was that ORS was concerned that districts were artificially inflating administrators' salaries in their fiscal years of service for the sole reason of inflating those administrators' pension amount. In the settlement, it was suggested the boards should pass a resolution indicating that increases in salary awarded were not for the sole purpose of spiking an employee's salary so that they will receive a higher pension amount in retirement. Administration is recommending passage of this resolution indicating that the board has not provided increased compensation to its employees to purposely and possibly artificially increase their retirement compensation amounts. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the retirement non-spiking resolution as presented. I would like to entertain a motion to that effect.
I would make a motion to not entertain and not pass this resolution.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Berkmeyer.
Out of curiosity, I'll second that.
All right, supported by Mr. Vinatieri. Comments, questions, or concerns?
So this lawsuit originated around 2019, and when a time where actually I think I'm the only person that was even on the board at this point. In reading through the settlement, it separates the people, the folks involved in the lawsuit into two classes. The first class, and don't quote me on the dates, but the first class was folks that retired between a date in 2019 to 2021. And then the second would be a group that would have retired in 21 to 25. And my understanding is that this is not all public school employees. This only pertains to folks that were not part of bargaining units or in sole individual kind of like in single positions within the school district. So like, for example, a superintendent, right? We only have one. Sometimes that's like for us, as assistant superintendent now that we didn't have that position back then. And then I believe one secretarial position is potentially, like
Yeah.
currently would
Mhm.
be subject to
And
something
then,
like
yeah,
that.
their district hallway monitors, security guards. There's probably 20, 25 people that are probably part of that.
So, but the classes are only, this settlement only pertains to people that retired within those years. I'm not even aware if we have anybody that fell into those categories and applied for retirement within those years. So in some ways, I'm kind of not understanding why this is being recommended to us to do. Miller Johnson represented the superintendent's group. They also do policy for our district and many districts. It seems like a conflict of interest for Miller Johnson to then come forward and say, push this resolution through for the superintendents that we just represented in a case that went all the way to the state Supreme Court. To my knowledge, I mean, I have absolutely no knowledge if anybody from Anchor Bay particularly retired within that and then falls within either of these classes that want their pensions to be reconsidered. It doesn't, to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, but this doesn't affect, for example, you're not retired.
No.
It doesn't affect anybody who's current, right? It only affects folks that put in for their retirement, not even necessarily that left us, but put into it for their retirement in those pieces. So I'm truly not understanding why we're being asked to do this. Like, I will fully admit that it probably doesn't hurt us to do this, but it could hurt state of Michigan taxpayers. I mean, none of us, for example, the obvious, because this lawsuit revolved mostly around superintendent salaries that potentially got spiked, right? And that's what ORS was kind of coming after. We weren't here. We didn't, I was on the board come 2019, but I didn't negotiate the contract even that superintendent had. How do I speak for that now? How does any board speak for that now? So that's how I'm not understanding what it benefits, for example, for us, for anchor-based schools. What's the benefit for anchor-based school district to pass this resolution? Sure, sounds like a nice thing to do for people that are potentially being told that their contract was part of this spiking and they shouldn't get incredible benefits from the pension system as a result of that. But as a taxpayer and as somebody who wants the pension system to last for the rest of our teachers and everybody else and not allow unfair advantages, I don't understand why any school district, let alone particularly where I'm talking anchor-based schools, what value does this bring to us to do this?
Right.
And so I can address some of those. So the settlement was basically, it split at retirees, and it's more than just administrators. It's anybody who's not covered under a bargaining agreement. So then, because the board did pass this last year, that was part of it. And then also we set some salary scales for our non-affiliated members. And so they broke it up into three. There was basically people, as described, Group A, which was people who retired before June 30th, I believe it was 2021. Then Group B, that before June 30th, 2025. There's still this open question as they work through going forward for anybody who had not retired at that point. And then the recommendation is basically you're just basically saying that, hey, what we did wasn't for the intent of like goosing pensions or anything like that. So for example, let's take like the secretary example. We did 27L. So part of 27L was given to everybody who made under a certain dollar amount. And so they were awarded that. So technically that bonus, even though it's chargeable to ORS, could be construed as spiking. And so and this just basically says that everything we did was not with the intent to do that. So if they get the 27L funding, then it's just kind of encompassing that for people if they're retiring within basically this year.
That makes sense. I just, I can't speak for anybody who retired in that sense. in those windows. I can't speak for the length of their contracts. Your pension looks at your 3 highest years.
Yeah, yeah.
And that may or may not have occurred when I was here. That may or may not have occurred under any contract that I negotiated. How can I speak for that? And that's putting this blanket statement out ongoing. I mean, is a board 10 years from now going to know that this board sat here and said that? And, you know, with any of their own motives? I don't know. I just feel like it's very broad. It's very, it's kind of like asking us to vouch for something we as a board didn't do.
If the board would allow it, I'd like to just address a couple things. So you're exactly right with your dates. The people who are not covered by that settlement is anybody who's going to retire next year or the following year. So we're saying essentially that for 26, 27, you know, we're not inflating salaries to drive their pension up. So it's really for people in the future. You're exactly right. Those folks and Group A and Group B are settled, but it's really into the future. We don't necessarily know what ORS is going to do. So it's really for the future retirees that we're passing this. And then I would say, what value is this to Anchor Bay? I think the value would be in the board saying to the community that we are certifying that we're not playing any of these games and trying to spike people's salaries that so they get a larger retirement. We're not playing that game. We are on the up and up, and every penny that was spent on these people's salary is legit. I think that would be
This
the value.
resolution says right here, number 7, to the best of this board's knowledge, before the date of this resolution, the board has not issued any compensation increases for the purpose of increasing final average compensation for any individual.
Yeah,
So
this,
up until now, we're vouching that we've never done that. How can I vouch for something?
Well, because we just passed the budget with all those increases in the budget for next year. So that would be the reason to do it now, essentially saying we acted 10 minutes ago to approve the 26-27 budget. And now we're certifying that that budget did not allow for any sort of spiking.
yeah, and the board passed this last year. So you're basically just saying going forward. So what we pass is now, to the best of our knowledge, is not that. And then that's why you will likely see this as an annual authorization from the state's looking for. It just helps with people that if they do retire, they might not ask for it, but it was something that was kind of in there as part of the settlement because nobody knows where Group C is going to go. So because last year's resolution covered previous ones, this is basically covering, it's basically a year at a time.
So if
But the resolution only mentions groups A and B, specifically the ones that are only in that category. So why that doesn't seem to track?
I guess I don't see where it says A and B in the rationale.
When you go to it's in the actual resolution.
terms and conditions.
It goes into number 5 and number 6. It's only talking about groups A and B. It doesn't say anything about going forward. It just talks about up until this point.
Yeah, and then 7 covers. 7's to the best of his knowledge before the date of this resolution. The board has not issued any compensation increases for any individual.
I mean, I would attest to something going forward, but this is talking about up until this date.
Yeah, so a question with that, could we modify this budget item or this resolution to say that since 2025, since that's the budget we just approved?
Well, yeah, you can do that, and you can take out 4, 5, and 6 in the resolution if you want, if that makes you feel more comfortable.
Okay, would that work for you?
It does not work for me, but I mean, so
Well,
I'm just, so,
No.
I mean, no, I don't want to amend my emotions. So, I mean, we can fail it and you can offer something else. I mean, that's fine. I don't.
Yeah, so you have to act on the motion that's on the floor
Right.
first, and
Okay.
then you can offer.
This is only the second year that this would be presented, and prior to last year, we hadn't done that. And this recommendation stems exclusively from legal counsel.
Yes.
To Ms. Burkmeyer's point, do you know of any current or past employees that would fall into this group?
That fall into group A or B.
Yeah,
Well, anybody who, part of the settlement as well as group E, it's anybody who's So let's say, for example, that you have, let's just say there's a secretary retiring, and then you have somebody, because it's 3 years of average compensation. This is actually covering those 3 years. So the settlement covers if you work before, it's basically saying that this is like the years before June 30th, 2025 fall under group B. So you're not necessarily totally into group A, B, or C. It's the way that they read it is 2 of those years are group B, 1 is group C now. And then as that shifts over the years, eventually you'll have all 3 will be group C, because that's generally, but that's not always the case, because if you had somebody who had like their highest years before that, they could technically be group A. I mean, as long as, because you have people who have worked over 30 years.
okay. All right, so our current motion is by Ms. Burkmeyer to not pass the resolution, supported by Mr. Vinatieri. Do we have any other comments, questions, or concerns on that motion?
Yeah, I guess just for me, that I don't believe that we're doing this, and I think since we just approved the budget for 2025, I think we could attest to that. So my intent is to vote no on this and then make a new resolution to amend it, saying since 2025 for the budgets that we approved today, going forward, we're not, engaged in any sort of spiking of salaries to buffer the pension.
Okay. All right, call the roll.
Okay. Ms. Burkmeyer?
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli's a no. Mr. Colbert?
No.
Mr. Richards?
No.
No. Ms. Knox?
No.
Okay, motion does not pass.
All right. Would anyone like to amend the motion? I'd like to entertain that to that effect.
Well, now it's not an amendment, it's a new motion.
Entertain a new motion.
It's our new motion, okay.
Right. So, yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the retirement non-spiking resolution only for the years of 2025 forward.
All right,
You're saying indefinitely or for like 5, 6, 6, 7, or what are you?
right, you want to do calendar years versus,
Yeah, the calendar years from 2025
The
forward.
2027, you want to discover that because that's what you approved on the budget.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So 25 to 27.
Yes.
all right. We have a motion by Mr. Vinatieri. Any support?
Support.
Support by Ms. Knox. Okay, any comments, questions, or concerns to this motion? All right, hearing none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes. Ms. Burkmeyer?
Yes.
Ms. Knox?
Yes.
Apologies, I meant to say Ms. Knox first. Mr. Covert?
Yes.
Mr. Richards?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
All right.
Did you do yourself?
With it?
Did you call yourself?
I did.
Okay. I missed it.
I'm sort of like just talk to myself very quietly, like guy in the corner. Mr. Vinatelli says yes. All right.
All right, moving on. We have some bond change orders. French Associates had issued official construction changes directive documentation for pricing. Contractors previously awarded the Naldrit Middle School South projects, reviewed the CCDs and provided proposals. Brian Malo has reviewed the proposals with the project architect and prepared to recommend the following addition to existing contracts funded for project contingency. Direct construction cost total for Naldrit, Mechanical Watson Brothers, $285,378. CCD 10 for Middle School South, mechanical for also Watson Brothers, $179,667. CCD 10, Middle School South, for electrical, Sawyer Services, $64,193. CCD 12 for Naldrit Elementary, electrical for Sawyer Services, $115,156. The total amount for a recommended award of direct construction costs is $644,394. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the recommended award of district construction costs for $644,394. I'd like to entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Ms. Knox,
I'll support.
support of Mr. Colbert. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All right, hearing none, call the roll, please.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes, Ms. Brookmeyer,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, moving on. Next item, award recommendations for kitchen utility monitoring. Anchor Bay District has accepted bids for kitchen utility monitoring. The RFP was posted to Sigma and advertised to the local paper. The district only received one bid from Upper 90 Energy, and this is a smaller, unique project. Fortunately, the bid came in within our budgeted amount. The RFP to install separate metering for kitchen equipment at each of our buildings that contain a kitchen. The result is that the district will be able to separately change the food service fund for the electrical cost associated with the kitchen equipment. This will alleviate the burden of such of the general fund and reduce the general fund expenses by approximately $183,123 per year. Accordingly, this project will pay for itself in less than 2 years. We are recommending the following be approved for this project. Upper 90 Energy Centric's total implementation cost of $293,345. The recommended action is that the Board of Education approve the recommendation to award Upper 90 Energy and Centric's total implementation for $293,345. I would like to entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Knox, second by Mr. Vinatieri. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
I know, I believe it was at the last meeting, Mr. Rathbun spoke about this, right? Yeah, okay. Could you refresh our memory just a little bit, just for those who don't recall?
Yeah, so this equipment will allow us to separately meter all of the electricity that is consumed by our ovens and all of the kitchen equipment. The result is that it can actually be charged directly to the food service fund. So it's anticipated that it'll be about $183,000 is what the kitchen utilizes in a single year. So that cost will essentially be shifted from the general fund to the food service fund. There's some good news on that is that we're actually in a spend down plan for our food service because you can only have 3 months of excess fund balance. And we've got a little bit more than that ever since the laws changed and allowed us to feed all of our students for free. We've had greater participation and therefore we have a higher surplus. So this will allow us to kind of stay out of that in compliance by charging more expense there, and it frees up $180,000 in the general fund that we can use for education of our students.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Has the money that we'd otherwise use from the food service fund, have we been able to utilize all the money coming from that account, or we just tried to spend it whatever we could in past years?
So we do have an indirect that we often charge the food service as a way of trying to cover some of the costs related to central office services. So the accounting for the food, the HR time that is spent hiring food service workers and some of the utilities. So this will allow us to charge directly for that, and then we can still recover that indirect rate. And that might change a little bit depending on where the food service fund is at. But the food service fund only allows for you to pay things that are related to the food service. So it's very specific in that regard that you can't use it to pay for books or something like that for students.
And I apologize for not asking this earlier, but there's no way we can just estimate what utility expense we have for the kitchens?
No, they won't let you do that. That's the whole reason we're going through this is to get that separately metered, because it says specifically that unless the utilities are specifically metered to the kitchen, that you cannot include utilities or an estimate of what those utilities are in the food service fund.
Okay.
And this kind of builds on, just like you can see with the construction. Our kitchens weren't built for universal like lunches. And so that has been a tremendous added cost in being able, obviously, because now we're doing what, almost 3 times what we did before.
Yeah.
And so we've been using some of that to like replace equipment or purchase additional equipment in order to have that. So that's been going through. What this will allow us to do is not only break it off, but part of the next phase of the injury bond is you're looking at what rates are you charging, because we use the kitchens. They're very intense for short periods of time. So now they can also be on a separate rate structure potentially. And that could save us because it's outside, they have the 3 to 7 p.m. rate or things like that. Well, our lunches are done. So now that'll help us even on that end.
Okay. Would you include the shoreliner in this too, or no?
No, because the shoreliner is educational. It's not related to the food service.
Not part of the federal funding.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. Call the roll, please.
Ms. Knox?
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes. Mr. Richards?
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer?
Yes.
Mr. Covert?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Next item, Middle School South Mason work. Anchor Bay Schools has received a cost for masonry work to Middle School South by Albee Masonry is the contractor completing the tuck pointing work. While on site, they took note of work not related to the tuck pointing and provided the cost. The total cost is $127,369. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the change order for Albee Masonry in the amount of $127,369 as presented. Would anyone like to entertain that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll support.
All right. Motion by Mr. Vinatelli, supported by Ms. Knox. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
Yes, this is this related to the bond work?
Yeah. So this is, if you remember when we originally set the bond, we went through all of these projects and there was like, this is what we have to do, needs. And then and we broke those out over several years of what do we need in 1 to 3 years? What do we need in 5? What do we need in 10? And so part of it, what we included in the first, with a lot of the bond is what do we need in the first 3 years, like which roofs and things like that. So now this vendor is already out there doing those high need areas. And so now this is an opportunity because the vendor's like, well, we're out here. If you would like us to, we'll work on the other things. Because part of it is they're like, we already have people out here, can save you some money because we don't have to bring somebody else out there. But what's different here is because this is from some of the longer term items, it's a pull ahead. So this would come out of that savings line, that 3.5 million that we're under. And so you're basically, the approval would then take that would be reduced by this 127,000. But we're just pulling ahead a project that wasn't on this first go around. So it's not something it was something that we were going to look at later, but since they're here now, that's what they're.
Okay. Was it, because I guess what's taking me aback is took note of work not related to tuck pointing and provided the cost. So this wasn't noted before as a longer term, maybe goal? Or was it?
It was, but it just wasn't part of this. We were just
Gotcha.
doing the actual tuck pointing, but then this was like, okay, this is now it was only the work that was with the actual construction in those areas. And so now this is basically takes care of the entire building.
Okay, thank you. The way I read it was like, this is new.
Yeah, well,
it's-
it is.
It is, but it's
But it wasn't,
not.
it wasn't originally in this phase.
Correct.
And part of it, I'll tell you, part of it, it's sometimes it's companies going, hey, we have people here. I can keep them busy as projects are going instead of having to bounce back. We can take care of this without pulling off site. So it kind of works to their benefit to keep people there and wrap everything up and
Sure.
also get it out. But it's not, that's why it's not part of like a change order, because this is actually coming out of that savings, but it'll wrap up the whole building.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Jankowski, I know we received some pictures of the additional work, but can you maybe just touch upon, just for more for the audience, some of the major ones that caught your attention, just so they understand some of the, what the amounts equate to and or work wise.
So basically, let's go back to the tuck pointing. That was basically around like the rear entrance where the students come in, if you remember, with those arches over the back. So there was some pretty, we needed tuck pointing because that had eroded significantly along those areas. And so because that's part of this phase, in fact, they started taking those arches down already. That's why tuck pointing was in there, just as a maintenance. But then as they went around, they're looking at this, they're finding, so if you look at the one, it's a crack that runs down kind of the facing. It's probably from settlement over what I think the building was built in 74 or something. So over the last 50 years. And they're like, okay, we can kind of repair some of that. There's another area at the bottom. Again, it could be from just the washout of a water and so on. So then they would actually have to rebuild like that corner. One area you can tell it looks like somebody probably backed into the corner of the building several years ago. And so they would fix that as well. So a lot of it is just cracking and then and just cracks that you have on some of the exterior like outbuildings that we have. So they're basically, this would catch all of that into one.
Thank you.
My question on the washout piece, because I was kind of surprised. So all of these pictures were not included in the original scope. So everything pictured is an add-on.
Everything pictured was not in the original, like,
Right.
Because it wasn't the immediate stuff that we needed. It would be in the next phase. Because basically because I know you weren't on the board when we first did the bond. So we did everything that we have to do in a certain area. And then we left some things because we knew we were going to do exteriors like parking lots and concrete and things like that. And so this would kind of be a pull ahead from basically pull it ahead about 3 years, I would say.
Yeah, because some of it's fairly significant. So
Mhm.
it wasn't like not noticed, right? My only question then would be on the ones that are clearly drainage related, and there are quite a few. Just addressing the masonry is not going to be enough. Are we going to be able to address the underlying cause of
No,
what
and
it was
in
in the
that
first place?
yes, and that'll be part of it. We've already begun on some of it because if you remember last year, we pulled ahead some of the concrete in front of the school and things like that, and they've been handling that. We did that on our own, kind of like outside of it, because you will still have maintenance things that you have to kind of go along as you go forward, and so we're still doing some of those. This is just one that it to a certain extent it works because they have the availability that it's going to fit within the costs that they've already bid for, and so they can do it because they have the ability to do it now around the projects that we have going on. That's why, and I don't, the finance committee, this was one we were kind of on the fence for, and I don't know, there wasn't a recommendation from finance. It was like, well, let's take it to the whole board and say, hey, do we want to pull this ahead or not?
I see your point, Ryan. We started with safety, code,
Sure.
things like that. This is, a lot of these are more, except for the drainage, like cosmetic. But
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea
Yeah.
because if you're doing all of this work and something cosmetic like that makes it seem like we didn't do all of this work if you're not familiar with that, so.
Kind of out of curiosity, like, I mean, this is only regarding south.
Yes.
Because a lot of these pictures really kind of floored me that,
No.
like you said, like that it wasn't part of the original. I mean, I drive through south all the time and truly, I don't apparently look very close. So,
No,
I guess I'm kind of curious to know, like, what about the rest of our buildings?
no, and those, that will be on, part of it is like if you're, I don't know if you've been by Nalder recently. So almost all of the brick off the front of the building has been removed. So that handled a lot of issues that were there. And so you do the new areas, you're like, okay, then we'll go back and just pick those, because why have people fix it all and then do that? Because you don't know on some of these, you don't know what the plans are. You don't know if you're going to add here or there. We know basically the scope of South now has been kind of, you know, ascertained. So now it's like, okay, we could probably do this. They have the ability. We have the savings, even though we're trying to like hold onto that. But so it doesn't. It's just a good opportunity to kind of like, hey, it comes together and it's in within kind of the budget of what we had, and so we can kind of knock that out now while they're here, and then hopefully that'll save us down the road.
Oh, go ahead. Ed. You just got
I was just gonna bring up just a brief point of discussion because it was mentioned in the presentation earlier, but contingencies overall. So we're at 60% we've spent of our overall contingency budget, or is that just the
For just
contingency
this
budget for the
phase.
facilities that we've done so far, not
For-
all of the work we intend to do?
Well, yeah, for this phase, that's where we're at. That's
Okay.
where we have to stay under 7% going forward. And that's
Right.
not atypical, because we are getting into, again, this is kind of the mountaintop for the bound. We started with the high school, which was one of our newest buildings. The most kids could get the impact of it, but now we're into some of our oldest buildings. And so you're going to come across things in all of that, just because you don't know until you open up. Well, bless you.
Thank you.
Like a good example, because we can't take everything out. So a good example was when we started with North, when the safe, they're like, okay, it looks like a block wall safe. No, they had poured, when they did it, about 16 inches of concrete around the entire safe. You could survive a nuclear blast in there if you wanted to. Well, so then that's a change order, and then we make the adjustment. And it's the same thing with roofs and things like that. So we divided the roofs into what needs to be done in the next like few years. What can we come back to later that could very well be part of a bond or part of the savings? And we're not recommending anything large like that. This is just one that it fit with everything going on.
Just to kind of follow up on Mr. Covert's question or comment about the washout. It's safe to say once this is done, we'll have drainage that will be like, I'm looking at one picture, looks the drainage is like right up against the building coming down from the roof right now. Is it safe to say that we're going to be extending out that?
So then, yeah, well then we'll work on, in order the site work. That'll be when ultimately they're going to come back and do the parking lots and things like that. So we'll,
Some before the
yeah,
fall.
yeah. So we'll end up trying to address as much of that as we can.
And just in the same vein, I guess, is that contingency. So I saw that we were almost to the mountaintop, right? But
Yeah.
there was a hilltop. At
Yeah,
the,
yes,
you know,
yes.
second end of this. So at this point, it's keeping it under 7%. But obviously that can
Going forward for the next 2 years on those 3 projects. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Call the roll, please.
Okay. Mr. Benato is a yes. Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Ms. Brickmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Covert.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Moving on. Next item, middle school north playground berm. Anchor Bay Schools has received a cost to create a berm along a portion of the fence line of the playground at Middle School North. The material will be brought in from the site work at Ashley and Aldrit. Costs include shaping, restoration, and drainage. The total cost is $24,755. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the change order to Cordis Brothers in the amount of $24,755. I would like to entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make the motion.
Knox.
I'll second. Someone's gonna do
We
it.
have to call it in.
You don't have to, yeah, it could be fail for lack of a second.
Second by Mr. Vinatieri. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
What's the point of this playground berm?
Okay, so we added the playground and there are condominiums that adjoin that on the other side of the fence. And we have been getting some complaints about the noise of the students on the playground. And there was previously, I think it was last year about this time, about possibly fencing off the entire playground, not letting anybody on it after hours. And that the finance committee was like, no, we built this for public use. It gets fair amount of public use. But there is a concern that, you know, the people who were there was not a playground there, even though they knew they were next to a school. And we've had practices there. It used to be a football practice field. That when anytime that you have 250 kids out on a playground, there's going to be noise. And so basically what this would do is take some of the soil and all of that from the other projects. So there's a minor savings because we don't have to truck that out. And then you build a berm, and the logic behind it is basically, and we did this in a previous district. You just make the berm large enough, it's to deflect the sound. So it's not directly into their backyards. And so it was fairly successful in my previous district that they did the berm and it worked out. So again, there was not a recommendation. It was basically, let's bring this to the whole board, see if there's a desire. And again, this is not part of contingency. This would be part of, we take the 24,755 out of that savings piece.
So how many complaints are we getting? Is it from like one person or a whole neighborhood of people?
I would say it's a handful. It's that are calling, what are you going to do? Hey, it was really loud. I can't, you know, and I know I've actually had some children of some of the people there that are like, hey, we're trying to do things like, you know, put a water fountain in that might, but again, it's not going to drown out all of the students on there. So that's why I can see it from both sides. And that's, I think, kind of where the finance committee was.
Right.
It's like,
Can you talk about the Armada example you gave us too during finance?
so what we ended up having from my previous district, we were putting in tennis courts, and there was woods there, and it was sizable area. And when they cleared it out, all of a sudden you could see the house on the other side. And then that became a big thing because now you have tennis courts there. They're going to have tournaments on weekends. And so what we did was we did the same thing. We made a sizable berm that was up. Basically, you're always trying, it has to be taller than the source of the sound. And so it was a large berm. And then it actually worked very well. The neighbors were like, wow, that worked better than they thought, because there's no direct line. So it's now softens it.
So what size berm are we talking about, and how much space will this take up?
So if it would be about 5 feet high, it would run between that walking track, if you've been, and the fence.
Mhm.
And it would run basically through the main central play area that they have, not the fields on the side, just the main area where you get the most kids, because it has the gaga ball pits, it has the wiffle ball, it has the swings, it has everything like that. So it's just a central portion of that.
Okay, will it meaningfully impact the space that kids have to go?
No, because it's on the other side of the walkway. It's between the walkways in front. I don't know. I couldn't tell you the exact footage, but and then there's a space. So it'll be between that and the fence.
Okay.
During the school year, approximately how many minutes are they out there playing?
So generally there's about 850 kids at North. And then you have those broken into, it's about a 3-hour period roughly that they're out there, but that's only for that portion of it for recess. But then you also have gym classes that may go out and use it. There are people that use it on the weekends. Like one of the first complaints I received was from certain former board member who was in his backyard, and we put pickleball courts in, and one Saturday there was probably 60 senior citizens out there playing pickleball from like, I don't know, 10 a.m. to like 8 p.m. So it's great because it's getting used and people are making use of it, but there's also this side effect of, I mean, there were considerable amount of
noise.
people that are there using it. So
Did you say
So-
10 p.m. to 8 a.m.?
it was like 10 a.m. to like,
Okay.
yeah,
Still a lot of times, like 10
it's still, yeah.
Senior citizens, those are for the
Yeah.
brain.
Oh, it's all nighter.
Well,
No, and they had a nice, I mean, they brought their own nets in, they brought their own gear in, they brought everything, and
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome.
yeah.
But
So I'm just kind of worried about the precedent that this would set. I mean, we have schools that are in suburban neighborhoods all across the district, and
That's true.
I'm wondering, I guess Naldred might be a special case because the sound might be,
No, this is
acoustic,
north. This is at north.
right, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
at North, it might be, different because of the circumstances, but what if there's another school? What if someone wants the North treatment? How far are we gonna, I guess, be implicated once we do this?
Yep.
I agree with you, John, wholeheartedly. I know when we were going through strategic planning and how people were like, oh, I moved to this area because the schools were so close. Now you're going to send my kid here or whatever. And I just feel like it's like, we don't want to hear the joyful noises of children playing. And to me, that's not worth $24,000.
And I will tell you, I've raised that issue, and the response is always, but there was not a playground there when I moved there, but there was still school.
But it wasn't your property.
Yeah.
But then we also had the community saying, when you moved the fifth graders over, they need a playground.
Right.
But now we don't want a playground, but we need 24,000. I get it.
No,
I disagree, but I get it.
One thing I want to also mention too is on the Cortez Brothers request change write-up, it did notate that they'll do their best to protect the pavement, but we have not included any repairs in our proposal. Are they saying if there is damage, that they are going to repair that damage?
no,
You know-
they're basically saying they're going to, they'll go around as much as
Right,
possible. But,
Right. Is there any concerns, any pavement damage in that area? And I'm just,
uh,
It's hard to say.
they'll try and do the best that they
Sure.
can, but again, there's no guarantees on that, depending on, when they actually get into it.
right. So I'm just not sure, when we built, I mean, I guess it's probably for fire apparatus, so it should be relatively, strong, pavement back there. So, all right. Any other comments, questions?
My only question, I guess, on this would be timing. So is this the most opportune time? Like, I guess in bringing this up, was it just that they're kind of doing excavation on the site? So this was kind of like a nice add-on, or is it something that we could still do down the road if it made sense?
No, you can always do it down the road. We will have to do something with the soil that's been there.
Right.
If you have driven by Ashley, there's obviously a nice large berm there that's taller than 5 feet.
Yeah.
The goal would be, if we're going to do it, we really couldn't do it during the school year, because then we'll have kids who will just be climbing on a mud hill and all that. So if we're going to do it, it would have to be now, and then
do it.
that's just kind of, it's either, it doesn't have to be, again, like this summer. It's just, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it in the summer, so that hopefully the grass will grow in, and then you won't have a muddy
mess. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a motion to approve this on the table.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the current motion is to approve as presented. Motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Vinatelli. Any other comments before we call the roll? Call the roll.
Ms. Knox,
No.
Mr. Vinatelli is a no. Ms. Berkmeyer,
No.
Mr. Covert,
No.
Mr. Richards.
No.
Motion does not pass.
All right. Moving on, next item is going to be for closed session. The Board of Education moves to closed session for legal opinion and collective bargaining strategy pursuant to Open Meetings Act, Section 8C. It's recommended the Board of Education approve to move to closed session for legal opinion and collective bargaining strategy pursuant to Open Meetings Act, Section 8C. I'd like to entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second,
All right, motion by Ms. Knox, second by Mr. Vinatieri. Call the roll, please.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes, Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, and we are going to go in closed session at 8:32. Next to come out of closed session at 9:48. And I also need a motion to approve the closed session minutes.
I believe we need a vote to resume.
I'm
that.
sorry, yes, great. Yeah, like, so makes motion to,
I will make a motion to resume at 9:48.
I'll support.
motion by Ms. Knox, by Mr. Covert. Call the roll, please.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes, Ms. Berkmeyer, motion passes.
Beautiful. All right, moving on. To approve the closed session minutes, would someone, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the closed session minutes.
I'll make a motion.
I'll support.
Motion is Mr. Covert, supported by Ms. Knox. Any comments, questions, suggestions? No, call the roll.
Mr. Covert,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes, Ms. Berkmeyer.
Yeah.
Motion passes.
All right. Next item is going to be the paraprofessional tentative agreement. The board reviewed the tentative agreement and is brought before the board for adoption. The recommendation is that the Board of Education approve the para tentative agreement for 2026, 2027 school year as presented. Would anyone like to entertain a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Vinatieri. Any comments, questions, or concerns? No, hearing none. Call the roll, please.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli is a yes, Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer. Mr. Covert,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right. Beautiful. Moving down the list. Next item is going to be points of pride, and I'll start with Mr. Covert. Nothing. Okay, Ms. Knox.
Just have a safe and happy summer and try to read a book.
Mr. Vinatieri.
Teachers, staff, and parents and students, thank you for another great year at Anchor Bay. That's all I got tonight.
Ms. Berkmeyer.
Just want to thank all the staff, like Mr. Vendatelli said, and the families of Anchor Bay for a good school year. I did want to have a few comments regarding, what was said at public comment. Ms. Ross, I really feel for you. And I would like maybe for the president or, the board as a whole to consider maybe some sort of policy or some sort of issue going forward where if the district is gonna maybe do something that deviates from our standard safety or security measures, like take a camera offline, or maybe because it's broken, or we're going to discontinue the use of this or that, something that we've done in the past, that that at least the board be informed going forward. I mostly say that. I don't say that as malice towards our administration or anything, only because that kind of sparked me to realize too, and I've heard and seen situations in other districts where, as technology breaks or we have changes in cameras, you do hear stories such as that where, we have all these cameras, but they're not working today. And I know that ours was for the construction, which is legitimately ongoing. But I don't want to go down that road. So I think it might be prudent for us to do something, have some sort of internal policy that, we inform others, when we're going to make these changes. And so it stays in the forefront. Also to the measure though, that the parent brought up, I do kind of firmly believe though, we've started some of the bond construction early in the buildings where it was prudent. But I think we have to be very careful, and we have to avoid doing things that are gonna do stuff like change security measures until school is done. So if that's gonna take cameras offline or, or do things that are gonna change our day-to-day interaction, we need to be informed of that at the very minimum, or avoid that kind of thing, that piece of it until school is out. Because I think for myself, like, I knew that construction and different things were happening in various buildings around the district, to try and pull ahead and do these things. And I can appreciate the need, but also, I also wasn't aware that, certain security and safety things were being changed because of it. I don't think anybody did that with malice or, bad intention, but then situations like this arise, and then we don't have we don't have cameras to look at. We don't have, our normal protocols to go through. So I want us to kind of think about that and, be more mindful of that going forward as well. And then third, kind of on the same topic, because we do, the parent brings up a fantastic point, for nonverbal students. I mean, those parents and even our staff, our own staff, are reliant on things like cameras, to understand what happened or what went on. So I don't know, that was one building, one incident, over at Aldred. Can we look at even around the district with our own funds, like beefing up, camera systems for buildings or areas where we have like an increase or we have nonverbal students, because, that's definitely a need. Certainly I realize that we can't be putting we're not able to put cameras like in the classroom. That would be a union issue and, various other things, but can we be more proactive and make sure that we have, better angles of hallways, where we have those students and where those students access, maybe in those buildings? If that's something maybe we can cost out or look at. I don't know if it would be I truly don't know if that would be a humongous expense, or if it's just, something we just need to get up and do. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you being willing to come and speak. I know that's not easy. I could hear it in your voice and, everything that your child went through. So I appreciate that and you pointing that out. But those are kind of my takeaways from the incident. And, so I'm hoping that we as a board can kind of try to do better, for the district and for the kids that have additional and different needs.
Thank you for the feedback. It's a great idea. It's kind of short. School's towards the end here, and now it's late night too. So, the 2026-2027 new student and school of choice is now open. The kindergarten and bus safety and welcome event is Wednesday, August 19th at Great Oaks at 9 a.m., Lighthouse at 10:30, McCont's at 12:30. On August 20th, it's at Mildred at 9, Lottie at 10:30, and Ashley at 12:30. Can't believe I'm talking about that already for next year, but it was on the website. Congratulations to Dakota Geyser on being named MHA District 12 champion for the junior high school equestrian team. Great job. Anchor Bay Youth Football Camp for 5th through 8th grade is July 27th through the 30th. Registration details on the Anchor Bay Facebook page. Also the same dates. Summer basketball camp for girls and boys entering grades 5 through 8. Registration details are also on the Anchor Bay homepage. One thing, Mr. Jankowski, I kind of caught on to too, just looking at the Facebook page with different events coming up. Maybe there's a way next year to try and do these events not the same day, because to me, if I have a student that wants to do, football camp, it's gonna be a long day to bring them to the basketball camp, after I know that they're different times, but just something that caught my attention to know. They're great summer programs, but I'd like to try and at least break them up a little bit. Maybe we get, I hope one doesn't take away from the other either. So, congratulations to the class of 2026. Weather worked out perfect for us. Had a great night. I think it was great, listening to the speakers, talking to the students at graduation. I think it was a well-attended event. Things went pretty well. Anchor Bay Middle School North, beginning band camp starts Monday, August 10th through Friday, August 14th from 9 to noon. Registration is on the Anchor Bay Band Boosters Club Facebook page. Congratulations to Cameron Gramzow, who earned the title of 2026 MHSAA Division I State Champion for discus. Great to see him representing Anchor Bay is kind of my points of pride this month, and congratulations and good luck with your future. So other than that, that's all that I have. Legislative update.
Legislative update, just the budget, I'm trying to follow that. So supposedly they have an outline for it's not necessarily an agreement, it's just an outline of the major pieces of that they said yesterday. It's been kind of, everybody knows what the basic outline is that it's a minimum of 250 per student. That's a floor, not a ceiling. It's also they'll maintain the universal lunch and the GSRP programs. The big challenge will be it's everything else that goes with it, because the only game in town is the school aid fund and how much money they'll shift from there. So for example, they always talk about it's record funding. They add $1, it's basically record funding. It's not keeping pace with inflation. And when Proposal A was passed in 1994, basically the intent, and that's the voters, were to kind of keep it for K-12, but now they've been shifting university funding. So it's, to what extent are they going to continue to shift university funding into that? And then what are the other costs? Because like last year, for example, they added, it was about $400 per student. And then they shifted, as we kind of detailed at several board meetings, they shifted the 3% individual employee contribution for retirement healthcare to the district. They took it off the individual employees, shifted it to the district. So it was something about when it all came out, we had about $110 like increase, because they not only did they add, it was the more funding than ever, but they added more costs than ever. So that's really what gives us pause, because every year we're passing our budget, because we're basically passing our budget without knowing what the state's going to do. And it's for people, if they're watching at home or watch the meeting, so they understand that we're basically doing the best guess that we have. And that's why you'll see these amendments and then revisions. And lately, it hasn't even been just getting grants. We'll get funding, like we talked about the filter first. That's for the filtered water. Then all of a sudden, something else happens because they're passing these budgets late. And so last year was October. So then the filter first grant didn't go out until later. And so then that goes to the next budget year. And then they froze those items. And then we have to fight for money that we already have contracts for those grants. We've already started spending funds on. So it's been, I know people might be like, why can't they just pass a budget, stay within that budget? That's not how it works, because we're passing a budget just really trying to guess what Lansing's going to do. And I don't know if anybody can guess what Lansing's going to do. And so then we have to do our best guess, and then we have to kind of see how everything goes. And then if they'll hit other deadlines, and it just pushes everything back. So basically, if they don't act tomorrow, they will not make the statutory July 1st deadline typically, because things have to be, they don't usually meet on Fridays or weekends. So if they don't call a session for Friday or the weekends, then they won't have things out for 3 full days before they can vote on it, which would be the last day. There have been meetings now, because last week they couldn't even agree on where to have the meetings. And so that has kind of moved. They have decided that they're not going to do anything. They'll save the property tax discussions for later. They'll also not touch any of the rainy day funds that they set aside. So we know those are the big things. It's just, there's so much in the details. And I know a lot of people say, well, what about lottery money? Just so people understand, the school aid fund's about 21 billion. They get, lottery funds are about 1.4, 1.5 billion. So it's not even covering you know, like 10% of that. So that's the big thing. And if they can kind of get that figured out, we're just waiting to see what's the impact. How much are they going to shift out and add costs? And that's why we just have to be super conservative on everything. And then we'll see how it goes, because if they don't do it by the 1st, we probably won't have a budget. They tend not to call session in the summer. They've already planned to be out campaigning. We probably won't see it until September.
Wonderful.
Can I comment?
Absolutely.
Just want to, I think I probably speak on behalf of the entire board, is the work that Todd and you and the team do to plan conservatively. You've done this for quite a few years in a row now. Yeah, and we do have to go back and do a lot of revisions and things, but we appreciate the conservative approach. So I don't feel nervous about where we're at or, anything like that. So that's it.
Thank you. Next item is board committee updates. Yeah, finance, I think for the most part was presented tonight. Policy didn't. Yeah. Okay. All right. And that is a wrap. All right. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I will.
I'll second.
All right. Motion, Ms. Knox, supported by Ms. Vinatelli. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wants to disagree with that? No nays? All right. Adjourned at 10:04. Thank you very much.